Why did Jesus call himself a temple? In John chapter 2 verse 19, Jesus made what is arguably his most controversial statement. After the Jews had spent 46 years rebuilding their temple, Christ told them, "Destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up." In Matthew chapter 26 verse 61, this statement was used by the Pharisees to justify his execution, because the only way he could say such a thing was if he believed he was the Son of God, a claim which was blasphemy in their eyes. What they didn't realize, though, was that Jesus wasn't talking about Herod's temple at all. He needed far less than 3 days to rebuild the synagogue, considering that he could stop a storm just by speaking to it in Matthew chapter 8 verses 23 to 27. No, Jesus was referring to the temple of his body, as John chapter 2 verse 21 shows, and the 3 days referred to his resurrection. However, why would Jesus refer to himself as a temple? Obviously, he wasn't a building, and we can't really offer burnt offerings to him. He certainly didn't have priests working for him. So, of all the comparisons Jesus could have made, why did he choose this one? Well, the two are actually more similar than you might think. One connection between Jesus and the temple was that worship was centered around them. When Solomon finished building the first temple, he prayed that Jehovah would answer any prayers of the Israelites that were made to it. Thousands of years later, Jesus was made the center of the world's worship in John chapter 14 verse 6. "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father but by me." It was God who brought him to this position, according to Philippians chapter 2 verses 9 to 11, as a reward for his sacrifice. Also, Jesus and the temple are similar in that they are both holy. The innermost part of the synagogue was called the most holy place in verses like Exodus chapter 26 verse 34, and Peter referred to Jesus as the Holy One here. "But ye denied the Holy One and the just, and desired a murderer to be granted unto you." Acts chapter 3 verse 14. The only difference between the two is that Jesus was pure from the beginning, according to 1 Peter chapter 2 verse 22. He was holy because he was sinless, as holiness is by definition the absence of sin. This holiness allowed both these institutions to cleanse the people of their wickedness. The temple purified Israelites by accepting sacrifices, and Christ purified the Jews by becoming a sacrifice. As it was said in Ephesians, "Walk in love, as Christ also hath loved us, and hath given himself for us an offering and a sacrifice to God for a sweet-smelling savor." Ephesians chapter 5 verse 2. His sacrifice smelled sweet because Jehovah was proud of him, according to Luke chapter 3 verse 22, not because his death pleased him. However, even though Jesus and the temple are similar, they can't really be equated. The original sin of Adam and Eve resulted in the loss of human life, and the synagogue tried to atone for it with the loss of animal life. Thus, the temple didn't fully cleanse people of their wickedness. As the author of Hebrews said, "For it is not possible that the blood of bulls and of goats should take away sins." Hebrews chapter 10 verse 4. Jesus, on the other hand, was a human, and a perfect one at that, so he'd be able to completely cleanse us of evil. The only sin we'll have left is the wickedness we engage in ourselves, because Jesus' death doesn't cover that. The author of Hebrews also said, "For if we sin willfully after that we have received the knowledge of the truth, there remaineth no more sacrifice for sins." Hebrews chapter 10 verse 26. If Jesus died for our willful wickedness, then everyone would be able to commit unlimited sins without consequences. Therefore, my advice is that we should enter the temple of Jesus and give our own offerings to him. We don't have to kill livestock and present them in front of the Levites anymore, but we should still give our Almighty Father sacrifices, which in our time are our own lives. After all, as St. Paul said, "I beseech you therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that ye present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service." Romans chapter 12 verse 1. Also, Isaiah told us, "And they shall bring all your brethren for an offering unto the Lord out of all nations upon horses, and in chariots, and in litters, and upon mules, and upon swift beasts, to my holy mountain Jerusalem, saith the Lord, as the children of Israel bring an offering in a clean vessel into the house of the Lord. Isaiah 66 verse 20. Animal sacrifice created discipline, but only the offering of our bodies can truly cleanse us of sin. And that is where I'm going to stop with this Bible Q&A. Why did Jesus call himself a temple? He called himself a temple because both he and the temple in Jerusalem were holy and had worship centered around them, even though Jesus was far more holy than his physical counterpart. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe.